Hello students, myself Dr. Divya, Assistant Professor, Department of Chemistry, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. So in this session, we will understand the classification of resources and living and non-living resources that are present in nature. So here are the topics. The classification, depending on the classification, what are the natural resources that are present and the resources that are present and different classification. So here are the resources. The resources are of two types, natural resources and human resources. And in natural resources, there are renewable and non-renewable resources. Renewable that can be replenished easily. Non-renewable resources cannot be replenished or replenished taking time. It takes time. Takes long time. So these are the two different resources that are present in nature, renewable and non-renewable resources. So human-made resources are also present. So what are they? Like structures and institutions are some of the resources that we are using for mankind. So they are structures and institutions, and then quantity and quality. These are the resources that are present under human kind of resources. Then in renewable resources, we again have continuous or flow. So continuous renewable resource, for example, sunlight is a continuous resource that we get from the sun. So this is the continuous or flow that is coming from nature. So this is coming under renewable resource, continuous flow of resource. So next is the biological resource. So this is from the biology origin. So this has two types again, nature vegetation like plants, planktons, etc. So these are come under biological origin, and also the wildlife. The wildlife is nothing but the forestry or the animals that are in the wildlife. So they come under the resources wherein they are helpful for the mankind. So other one is also like non-renewable resources are again subdivided into recyclable non-renewable resources. So these resources are we can recycle them and reuse for other purposes. And the one is the non-renewable resources. So that cannot be recycled. Once we use it, it cannot be recycled again. So these are the classification of different types of sources that are present in nature. So based on their availability or origin or exhaustibility, there are different kinds again. So depending on the exhaustibility, as we have already seen, renewable resources are cannot be exhausted so easily. So depending on that, again renewable resources comes under one of the type of non-exhaustible resource. So non-renewable resources exhaust easily. It means, what is this exhaustibility? Exhaustibility is nothing but depletion or overuse will cause a reduce in number. So this is nothing but exhaustibility. Exhaust. So this is a term that defines the exhaustibility. I mean, it reduces in number or the availability of that particular resources. So non-renewable resources have the tendency like they will be depleted very easily when compared to renewable resources. So based on the origin, for example, biotic is from the living organisms, from biological. Biotic is from biological origin. So based on the biological origin, it is of two types, biotic and abiotic. This is from living things. So on the basis of origin, from living things, whatever resources we get, they are under biotic resources. And abiotic resources are from non-living things. So, for example, what are the non-living things we use daily? That are air, water, etc. So, these are coming under abiotic resources or components. So based on the next is based on ownership. Ownership is like we have already discussed in our previous session, that some particular authorities or the individuals will have the authority to guide and also have the limitations so that the exploitation of resources can be controlled. So individual resources, based on the ownership, individual resources like for example house or plot or some ponds comes under these individual resources. And community resources like parks, other picnic spots, etc. Picnic spots, etc. comes under community resource, because a community is maintaining this particular resource. So that is why it is coming under community resource. The national resources are nothing but the nation will be taking care of that. So like for example oil, gas mines or the petroleum mines. And then international resources also comes under like international authorities will be having the control. So for example ocean resources or petroleum resources comes under this classification. So these are the different types of resources that are classified based on the exhaustibility, origin and also ownerships of particular resource. So if we go in detail like exhaustible or non-renewable resources, the natural resources which are limited, which get reduced. So they are getting reduced in quantity when they are used too much. So that are called as exhaustible or non-renewable resource. What are the best examples? Coal, petroleum, natural gas and metals. For we do mining of these resources. So what happens when we mine these resources and use extensively? They get depleted. Depleted is nothing but they are reduced in quantity. So that comes under exhaustible non-renewable resources. Then inexhaustible non-renewable resources are, they are available in plenty in nature and can be renewed, are called inexhaustible or renewable resources. For example, air, there is lot of air that can be used, and water and sunlight. These are the best examples for inexhaustible or renewable resources. Renewable is replenishment. Renewable is replenishment. So they can form very easily. Replenishment. So they can form easily. So there is lot of abundant energy that is available from sun. Abundant energy or heat is available from sun. So that can be used for electricity. Electricity, for example, we are using for electricity. How is it done? By solar cells. So solar cells will help in converting this sunlight energy into electricity. So this is how we can use these resources for our purpose. Then these natural resources under a renewable resource can be used and can be replaced over a shorter time. Within shorter time that can be replaced. So, but even though they are able to replace, the more if we are keep on using the natural resources, then they are replaced, then they get depleted. So we have to be careful and manage properly while using natural resources also. So examples, trees and water. So these two are the examples that come under, like we are using exhaustively, like we are using more quickly than they are forming. This, for example, deforestation. Because of deforestation, cutting down trees for our purpose is causing loss to or reduce the number of trees. So what happens when the trees are cut down for making paper or some other purpose? When the trees are cut down, the carbon dioxide absorbing trees will be reduced. When the carbon dioxide is escaping into atmosphere, the ozone layer get depleted, and that will cause many other pollution problems. So non-renewable resources can be not all the earth resources are really renewable. So there are also non-renewable resources that are present that cannot be replaced or that can be replaced over thousands or millions of years. So for example, coal or oil will form only after millions of years. Millions of years. So that is why we are calling them as fossil fuels. Fossils, nothing but they are coming from decay of matter. So that is why we are calling fossil fuels. So the earth only has a certain amount of non-renewable resources at any given time. So there are particular amount of non-renewable resources that are present on earth. So they must be used with cautiously. So they must be used very cautiously. Example, oil, natural gas and coal. Coal, oil and natural gas. So these are the best example. Best example, like mining the coal, too much of coal or natural gas or oil will be depleting the resources. So for example, energy resources are like coal, that is nothing but we are producing energy from these resources. Coal, oil and natural gas are the examples. The metal resources are iron, copper and aluminum that we will be using for our mankind purpose. So for making furnitures or any other applications. So non-metallic resources are salt, clay and sand. These are also coming from nature, like sand, clay and salt. We have been seeing that there is a tremendous cost that is increasing even for the sand, just because that we are overutilizing them. So there is a reduction in that number also. So metal ores, for example, cinnabar, ore of mercury, zinc sulfide, zinc and many more are available in earth. They are available in nature like this. So after mining they are available in ore form. So they are available in ore form. So only after reprocessing, they form metals. So as such in earth they are available in the form of ores. So they are in a combined state and forming a compound. So they are formed in the ore forms. Only after processing they get into metals. So that is nothing but purification. So we are investing much more money on purification also. So as soon as the development has taken place, we kept on using these ores from the mine. So there is always depletion problem that will be occurring. So these non-renewable resources should have some gap or the time lapse so that they keep on producing. Next is the rare earth metals. So these are nothing but they are also referred to as rare earth oxides or lanthanides. So these rare earths, rare is nothing but very scarce metals that are available in the earth. But because we are saying scarce, they always combine with oxygen and form oxides. So this group of lanthanides are called as rare earth elements or rare earth metals. So they are usually a set of 17 indistinguishable, lustrous, silvery white, soft, heavy metals. So these are silvery white in color with they are soft metals. So they are most widely used in battery applications in forming composites. So these composites have wide applications in the batteries and supercapacitor or any other applications in our modern day. So these are being mined too much for our daily applications. So they also get exhausted. So that is why it is very important to manage them before we are applying for any purpose. Next comes the petroleum. So refers to crude oil also and is naturally occurring. So crude oil occurs naturally in the deeper sea. So these are deeper sea. It is present in nature, but it is yellow blackish liquid that is forming due to geological forms. It means that there is a dirt or the fossils that are being decaying and forming this oil. So it is also defined under fuels. So this is used most widely in our automobiles for the fueling purpose. Energy, a quantitative property that must be moved or transferred to another object to perform a work or to do heat. Energy. So energy is nothing but we are getting from the coal, oil or natural gas that we are using in generating energy and using for our purpose in moving or transferring objects from one place to another place, for example automobiles. So these fossil fuels comes under non-renewable resources. Non-renewable resources. So energy resources are natural occurred resources that human use to generate energy. So we are generating energy from the naturally occurring resources. So most of the energy we generate are from the fuels. So till date, the most of the energy that we are producing is from only fossil fuels. So fossil fuel is coming from is under non-renewable energy resource formed from the remains of plants and animals that lived long ago. For example, there are planting and the animals that die in the seas and they get debris. So that decaying for a longer time under pressure, temperature, climate changes will form these fossil fuels. So when fossil fuels are burned, they produce energy. Because of presence of carbon, they produce energy. Lots of carbon is present, so they produce energy. So however, when fossil fuels are burned, they are non-renewable resources that so they get depleted. And they are non-renewable, so because it takes longer time for the formation, therefore it gets depleted. Once they are used up and gone, new supplies won't be available for thousands or millions of years. It takes millions of years for the formation of these fossil fuels. So till date it is not till date if we see it is one of the most valuable natural resource in the modern times. So we are being using extensively or exploring many other resources, but still fossil fuels are the most valuable natural resource that we are using till date. And it is estimated that 86% of world energy comes from only fossil fuels, burning fossil fuels. So 86% of energy, world's energy is coming from fossil fuels. World's energy is from fossil fuels. So fossil fuels are the source of energy for almost every machine including generators that produce electricity. Even for the generating electricity, like in the off time of power, we are using generators. So even that works on fossil fuels like coal, petroleum and natural gas. So these has got very good high carbon content, like coal, petroleum and natural gas having carbon content. Therefore they are the most widely used natural resources for the generation of electricity. So because the fossil fuels take a long time to form, they are being consumed faster. When the population increases, we are using for most widely, like most of them are using, so they are consumed faster and then they are produced. Before they are produced, they are being consumed fastly. So this is how the fossil fuels is really affecting, and they are the major contributors to air pollution. Why they are contributors to air pollution? Because they are during burning they are producing carbon dioxide. So when they are burned, they release many dangerous gases such as nitrogen dioxide, methane and carbon dioxide. Nitrogen dioxide, methane and carbon dioxide are produced while burning fossil fuels. So for example, if we have renewables that will be converting energy into wind, or wind energy into power directly, or heat or sunlight into power directly. But what happens when there is non-renewable energy resources that are used like coal, oil, natural gas? They are burned. While burning, only the gases are evolved. The gases are evolved like carbon dioxide, methane gases are very hazardous to human beings. So this will cause pollution. Ultimately, it is giving power, but these are the gases that are coming out during burning of fossil fuels. So that is why it is called a major contributor to the air pollution. So we are seeing that non-renewable resources are coming from the fossil fuels. So how really they are developed? Coal is really forming from before dinosaurs. Many range plants die in swamps, so they get debris. Debris are forming debris. So these swamps for about 300 million years ago. So that will be degrading or decaying takes place. So the dirt plants were accommodated here. Then the dirt is forming dead on the dead plants. Then the living organisms are on top. So of this water. So for about 100 million years of ago, like the plants or planktons or the animals that are living in water die. So that will be in the dead plants or the animals form a layer or in the deeper seas. So over millions of years, the plants were buried under water and dirt. So this will cause because of heat, pressure, and climatic changes, they turn into coal. So they turn into coal, and the top one will be the rocks and dirts that are already present. So that is how the coal is forming. That is how coal is forming out of dead plants and animals. So how the natural gas or the oil is produced or forming? So in the ocean for about 300 to 400 million years ago, tiny sea plants and animals die and are buried into the deeper seas like on the floor of sea, and over time they are covered by sand and silt. So after time there is coverage with the sand and silt, but still the decaying takes place. So over millions of years, these remains were buried deeper and deeper, and the enormous heat and pressure turned them into oil and gas. So organic material is getting degraded. So this decaying matter is turning into oil, and the gases that are producing decay during decaying are converting into gas. That is, we are mining again. So these oceanic plants or animals, after dying, they get decayed in the deeper seas, forming on the ocean layer that is forming on the ocean floor, and they get decaying slowly. So aerobically and anaerobically they react together and form oil and gas. So these oil and gas deposits are available very deep in the sea. That is why it takes a lot of investments for drilling or mining. It requires lot investment for the drilling and mining. So as oil and gas deposits are available in the deeper seas. So today we drill down through the layers of this sand, silt and rock. So the top layer will be sand, silt and rock. So we have to drill down through these layers and to reach the rock formation that contains oil and gas deposits. So it is always important to consider the presence of this oil and gas deposits to somehow how extent they are present before we go for the drilling and mining purpose. So if we go for the differences between the biotic and abiotic is the living. Biotic resources are the living comes from living things, and abiotic comes from non-living things. So if we see the differences, biotic factors include all the living components present in the ecosystem. So in the ecosystem, all the living organisms or things comes under biotic resources that can be used by the mankind. Abiotic resources are the factors refers to all non-living things, that is the physical condition and chemical factors that influence the ecosystem. So these for example are like air, water or non-living things or non-living components that give rise to abiotic resources. Examples of biotic resources include flora and fauna. It is nothing but plankton and the animals that are present. And examples for abiotic factors include sunlight, water, air, humidity, temperature, pH, salinity, then precipitation, altitude, type of soils, minerals, wind, oxygen, dissolved oxygen, mineral nutrients present in soil, air and water. So these dissolved oxygen also comes under abiotic resources, because there is some, for example, the soil is present. So soil also has some oxygen. So this oxygen is in the form of dissolved oxygen. Dissolved oxygen. So that also comes under abiotic resource, adding up to the value of abiotic resources. So depending on, so how does it depend on? It depends on the abiotic factors for survival and reproduction. This only depends on the survival and reproduction because of living things. So living things has the capability of reproduction. So the number or their availability depends on the survival and reproduction of living things. So abiotic factors depend independently of biotic factors. It has no connection with the biotic factors or the biotic resources. They are available in numerous, they are available in much more number, like water, air or soil is available. So it only depends on our duty is to protect them and use them in very managing it very carefully. Then origin, depending on the origin, abiotic components originate from the biosphere. We have seen biosphere is nothing but, what is biosphere? It is a combination of lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere. So what is this lithosphere? Is land, water, air, or atmosphere. So based on the biosphere, they are originating. Why? Because living things require these basic requirements for their survival and reproduction. That is why the origin is from the biosphere. What is the origin for abiotic resources? They are from lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere. How? Why? Because the air, water and land is nothing but they are coming from these lithosphere, hydrosphere and atmosphere. So all these comes under abiotic resources. So these are the differences between biotic and abiotic resources. So once we are we have understood what are the renewable and non-renewable resources, but also we have to also consider some alternative resources. Why? Because there are alternative resources to be considered, because renewable resources sometimes does not have technology to transfer the or use technology to use, requires technology to use. Non-renewable resources will anyhow get exhausted because of overusage. So most of our energy needs comes from use of fossil fuels. So we are using fossil fuels for now for most of our needs. So there are two main problems that are coming from. What are they? Availability is limited. So non-renewable resources get exhausted. So their availability is limited. And obtaining and using fossil fuels harms the environment because of carbon dioxide, methane gases. Methane gases during burning of these fossil fuels. So to continue to have energy but reduce pollution, we must find alternate energy resources. Alternate energy sources will be like reduces pollution, and also will give or help us or favor us in using the resources for our applications. Like all things, each alternate resource have some pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages. So nuclear, for example, one of them is a nuclear energy from fission or fusion reactions. So the splitting or adding up of some elements will cause fission or fusion reactions. So there will be exothermic energy that is producing. So they come under nuclear energy. They come under nuclear energy that is most widely used in the nuclear reactors. So solar energy is one of the alternate energy that is coming from sun. So the purpose of converting solar energy will produce lots of electricity that can be used for automobiles and also for the domestic purposes. So one of the example is the photovoltaics, wherein it converts the sunlight into electricity, that is through solar cells. So the panels that we see is nothing but called as modules. So these modules has lots of array of solar cells connected in series. So that is why it will be able to convert the sunlight into electricity. Then is the wind energy. So energy from the wind. So this energy from the wind can be converted into electricity. So using these turbines like wind turbines, so that it will be generating electricity. And hydroelectricity coming from flow of water. We have dams and rivers that can be used to convert these flow energy from the water into electricity. So it is very important. Dams are really helpful because we can store water during rainy season and can use for conversion into electricity. Biomass is one of the trending modern days energy that is being used for conversion into useful purpose, like energy from burning organic and living matter. For example, corn that is used here that will produce ethanol that can be used as a biodiesel and also biodiesel in the automobiles. So this is one of the example for the biomass. Then geothermal energy from the earth, wherein we use energy that is the energy heat coming out from the earth that can be converted into useful purpose. So these energy sources are inexhaustible, meaning they are constant and will not run out. They will not run out at any cost because sunlight is always available. We are like having hot sun in the summers, though that we can, in our country we have a longer summer time, so we can happily use sunlight for the conversions. And there are some other materials that can be used in other countries with the dim lights. Even there are materials that can convert the electricity sunlight into electricity even with the dim light. So that is how the sun will be helping in the technology. Also will in together with the sunlight with the technology can use for the electricity generation. Thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.